At 02:37 hours on May 2nd, 1943, Petty Officer Second Class Thomas Hendricks sat in the radio room of HMS Scimitar, 400 miles southwest of Iceland, listening to something that wasn't supposed to exist. The sound lasted 42 seconds. Low frequency burst, almost buried in static. Bearing 270 degrees, due west. His training said atmospheric interference. Admiralty protocol said equipment malfunction. Every signals officer in the Royal Navy said ignore it. Hendricks' unauthorized log said 12 U-boats were about to kill 3,000 men in 18 minutes. His hand moved to the microphone. Outside the radio room, Convoy SC-130 maintained formation. 37 merchant ships carrying fuel, ammunition, food, critical supplies, irreplaceable cargo. The convoy had no idea a wolf pack was forming attack positions 2 miles to the west. Had no idea torpedoes would be in the water before 0300 hours. Had no idea their radio operator was about to violate every regulation in the Royal Navy manual to save their lives. Hendricks keyed the switch. His voice was steady. Bridge, radio. Possible U-boat ranging signals detected bearing 270. Recommend immediate evasive maneuvers. What happened in the next 18 minutes would prove that one petty officer's refusal to follow protocol could save more lives than any tactical doctrine ever written. March through July, 1943, marked the peak of the Battle of the Atlantic. The numbers told a story of systematic slaughter. German U-boat wolf packs were destroying Allied merchant shipping faster than British and American shipyards could replace tonnage. The mathematics were brutal and clear. Convoy ONS-5 departed Liverpool on April 21st with 43 ships. Lost 13 in 4 days. Convoy HX-229 crossed the Atlantic in March with 40 ships. Lost 21 in 3 days. Convoy SC-121 lost 13 ships in 2 days. The pattern repeated across every major convoy route. North Atlantic, Gibraltar Run, Murmansk convoys. The U-boats were winning. British merchant marine casualty rates reached 38% by April 1943, higher than infantry casualties in France during World War I. Higher than RAF Bomber Command losses over Germany. Higher than any combat branch in any theater. Merchant sailors died quietly in freezing Atlantic water, far from home, with no headlines, no medals, no recognition. They drowned in fuel oil, burned in ammunition ship explosions, froze to death in lifeboats, died by the thousands while the official reports listed them as acceptable losses. March 1943, alone. 147 merchant ships destroyed. Approximately 5,000 sailors killed. At current loss rates, Britain would exhaust food reserves by October, fuel reserves by December. The island would starve. The war would be lost. Not through military defeat, through arithmetic, standard. Convoy doctrine relied on reactive defense. Merchant ships sailed in formation. Escorts patrolled the perimeter. When torpedoes struck, escorts counterattacked with depth charges. The problem was timing. U-boat wolfpack tactics exploited a fatal vulnerability in this defensive approach. German submarines coordinated attacks from multiple vectors, surfaced at night when radar was less effective, maintained radio silence during final approach. By the time escorts detected U-boat presence through torpedo launches, 3 to 7 merchant ships were already sinking. The escorts could hunt the submarines after the attack. But they couldn't prevent the attack. The tactical initiative belonged entirely to the Germans. They chose when to strike. They chose where to strike. Allied forces could only react. And reaction meant death, meant watching merchant ships explode, meant listening to distress calls, meant counting survivors and writing casualty reports. The tactical problem had a technical component that made it worse. Radio operators aboard escort vessels monitored multiple frequencies: U-boat communications, Enigma intercepts, Allied convoy traffic. The protocol was clear. German radio silence meant no immediate U-boat threat. If submarines weren't transmitting, they weren't coordinating attacks. If they weren't coordinating attacks, the convoy was temporarily safe. This logic made perfect sense. It was also killing sailors every single night. Thomas Hendricks was 24 years old, born in Portsmouth. Father was a fisherman who worked the English Channel for 30 years. Taught Thomas to read weather patterns, ocean currents, the subtle signs that predicted storms before they arrived. When war broke out in 1939, Hendricks enlisted in the Royal Navy. He wanted to be a gunner. They assigned him to radio operations, 6 months of training at HMS Collingwood. Technical instruction on radio equipment, frequency monitoring, signal identification, communication protocols. He graduated middle of his class, not exceptional, just competent. The Navy sent him to HMS Scimitar, a V-class destroyer assigned to convoy escort duty in the North Atlantic. Hendricks had been monitoring Atlantic frequencies for 3 years by May 1943. He'd listened to thousands of hours of radio traffic, U-boat communications, Allied chatter, weather reports, emergency transmissions. He'd developed an ear for the sounds of the Atlantic, could distinguish between atmospheric interference and equipment malfunction, could identify German transmissions by their characteristic rhythm even before decryption, could hear patterns other operators missed. Not because his hearing was better, because he paid attention to details everyone else ignored. Between 0200 and 0400 hours every night, Hendricks heard something unusual. Brief bursts of low-frequency transmission. 30 to 45 seconds duration. No Enigma signature. No discernible message content. Just static-filled pulses that appeared and disappeared. Admiralty Signals Intelligence had classified these signals years ago. Official designation: ionospheric interference. Natural radio phenomena caused by atmospheric conditions in the North Atlantic. Equipment technicians blamed receiver sensitivity, said the Type 291 radar sets picked up electromagnetic noise that mimicked transmissions. Other radio operators ignored the signals completely, treated them as background static, white noise, meaningless. Hendricks started noticing them in February 1943. First occurrence, February 18th, Convoy HX226. He was monitoring frequencies at 0243 hours when his receiver picked up a low-frequency burst, 40 seconds duration. He noted it in his watch log as atmospheric interference per standard protocol. 21 minutes later, at 0304 hours, U-boats attacked the convoy from the northwest. 5 merchant ships torpedoed in 8 minutes. SS Fort Lac La Ronge, fuel tanker 8,000 tons, exploded on impact. 67 crew killed. SS Expositor, cargo ship, 4,000 tons, sank in 11 minutes. 41 crew lost. SS Empire Lakeland, ammunition transport, 7,000 tons. Secondary explosions visible for 12 miles. 53 crew dead, plus 2 more ships. Total casualties, 214 men. Hendricks thought about that signal burst, 40 seconds before the attack. Could have been coincidence. Second occurrence, February 27th, Convoy on 166. Signal burst at 0156 hours, 38 seconds duration. U-boats attacked at 0218 hours. 22 minutes later, 4 ships torpedoed. SS Rosewood, SS Stockport, SS Nailsea Court, SS Empire Redshank. 137 crew killed, The signal preceded the attack again. Same time window, same pattern. Hendricks pulled out his personal notebook, started keeping an unauthorized log, recorded signal characteristics, time detected, duration, bearing if he could determine it, then waited to see if U-boats attacked. Cross-referenced his notes with Convoy action reports. Third occurrence, March 8th, Convoy SC-121, signal at 0311 hours, 35 seconds. Attack at 0329 hours, 18 minutes. 3 ships lost. Fourth occurrence, March 14th, Convoy HX-228. Signal at 0207 hours, 44 seconds. Attack at 0225 hours, 18 minutes. 6 ships lost. Fifth occurrence, March 19th, Convoy on Station Mass 1. Signal at 0252 hours, 39 seconds. Attack at 0311 hours, 19 minutes. 4 ships lost. The pattern was perfect. Every signal preceded a U-boat attack by 18 to 22 minutes. The bearing of the signal matched the direction of the subsequent attack within 5 to 8 degrees. The duration of the signal correlated with the size of the wolf pack. 30 to 35 seconds, 4 to 6 U-boats. 40 to 45 seconds, 7 to 10 U-boats. Signals longer than 45 seconds, more than 10 U-boats. By mid-March, Hendricks had documented 8 incidents, 8 signals, 8 attacks, 8 perfect correlations, 0 false positives, 0 missed predictions. The statistical probability of coincidence was negligible. These signals were not atmospheric interference. They were deliberate U-boat transmissions, some kind of ranging operation, coordination mechanism, pre-attack protocol the Germans used before strikes. Hendricks mentioned his theory to Lieutenant Commander William Davies, Scimitar's signals officer. March 20th, during routine watch changeover, he showed Davies his notes, explained the correlation, suggested the signals might be actionable intelligence. Davies looked at the notebook for 30 seconds, handed it back. Atmospheric interference is well documented, Hendricks. The North Atlantic generates electromagnetic phenomena that mimic transmissions. Equipment picks up false readings constantly. That's why we classify these signals as static. Sir, the timing is coincidence. U-boats attack between 0200 and 0400 hours because visibility is poor and our radar is less effective. Your signals appear during the same window because atmospheric conditions are most active then. You're seeing correlation, not causation. But the bearing matches, sir. The signal direction predicts the attack vector. Davies shook his head. You're fitting data to your theory. Confirmation bias. If you look hard enough at random events, you'll find patterns that don't exist. Focus on confirmed contacts, enigma intercepts, verified intelligence. Don't waste time chasing ghost signals. Hendricks said nothing more to Davies, said nothing to Commander Pearson, said nothing to the other radio operators. But he kept his log, kept monitoring frequencies, kept tracking the signals everyone told him didn't matter. March 29th, signal detected, attack followed. April 3rd, signal detected, attack followed. April 8th, signal detected, attack followed. By early April, Hendricks had 14 documented incidents, 14 signals, 14 attacks, 14 correlations spanning 6 weeks. The pattern held across different convoys, different escort groups, different operational areas. The only constant was the signal, and the U-boats that appeared 18 to 22 minutes later. Hendricks knew what his data meant. The signals were real. They were German. They were predictive. Every time he detected one of those low-frequency bursts, men would die in less than 20 minutes unless someone acted on the warning. But protocol said the signals were meaningless. Authority said they were interference. Doctrine said ignore them. and doctrine was killing 200 sailors every week. April 12, 1943, Convoy HX-232. Hendricks was on watch in Scimitar's radio room. The convoy was 3 days. The convoy was out from Liverpool, making 8 knots toward Halifax. 41 merchant ships in 7 columns. Clear night, calm seas, good visibility. Intelligence reported U-boats in the area, but no immediate threat. Standard patrol conditions. At 02:29 hours, Hendricks heard it. Low-frequency burst, 41 seconds duration, bearing 315 degrees northwest. He looked at his unauthorized log. Checked the pattern. 41 seconds meant 7 to 9 U-boats. Attack window, 02:47 to 02:51 hours. 18 minutes from now. Attack vector, northwest, matching the signal bearing. Hendricks stared at his microphone. His hand moved toward it, then stopped. He'd reported this theory to Davies. Davies had dismissed it. If Hendricks reported unconfirmed U-boat activity based on ghost signals, Davies would reprimand him, possibly relieve him of watch duty, possibly charge him with filing false reports. The signals were officially classified as atmospheric interference. Reporting them as U-boat intelligence violated protocol. Hendricks pulled his hand back, returned to monitoring standard frequencies, followed the regulations, did what he was trained to do. At 02:52 hours, 3 minutes into the predicted attack window, torpedoes struck SS Empire Heritage. Fuel tanker, 8,000 tons. The explosion lit up the night sky, orange fireball climbing 200 feet. Hendricks felt the shock wave through Scimitar's hull 4 miles away. 63 crew aboard Empire Heritage. None survived. The ship burned for 14 minutes before the fuel tanks exploded again. When the flames cleared, nothing remained. Just burning oil on the water. 02:54 hours. SS Manchester Port hit. Ammunition ship, 4,000 tons. The torpedo struck the forward hold. Primary explosion was small. Then the ammunition cooked off. Secondary explosions lasted 11 minutes. Hendricks heard them through the radio room bulkhead. Thunder rolling across the Atlantic. 41 crew, all dead. 02:58 hours. SS Shervan hit. Cargo ship, 7,000 tons. Torpedo amidships. She took water fast. Sank in 4 minutes. Her distress call cut off mid-transmission. 57 crew aboard. 12 pulled from the water alive. 45 drowned. Hendricks sat in his radio room listening to the emergency traffic, listening to escort commanders coordinating search patterns, listening to merchant captains reporting ships gone, listening to survivors screaming for help in water cold enough to kill in 20 minutes. He looked at his chronometer. 03:04 hours. 23 minutes since he detected the signal at 02:29. Exactly as his pattern predicted. He looked at his unauthorized log, looked at 14 entries documenting 14 perfect correlations. Looked at the note he'd written for tonight. Signal 02:29 hours, duration 41 seconds, bearing 315 degrees. Predicted attack 02:47 to 02:51 hours. 3 ships burning. 161 men dead. And he'd said nothing. He'd followed protocol. He'd obeyed orders. He'd stayed silent while men died on schedule. Hendricks closed his notebook, made a decision. Next time he detected those signals, he would report them. Court-martial be damned. Regulations be damned. He would not sit silent again while men burned alive because authority called his intelligence atmospheric interference. 161 corpses were enough. April 29, 1943. Convoy SC-130 departed Liverpool at 1400 hours. 37 merchant ships, 7 columns, 5 ships per column, plus 2 stragglers. The cargo manifest read like Britain's last hope. SS Fort Rouillé, fuel tanker, 12,000 tons of aviation gasoline. SS Dunsley, ammunition transport, 8,000 tons of high explosives. SS Harperley, food supplies, 10,000 tons of grain and dried goods. SS Empire Dunstan, SS Cristales, SS Turcolet. 37 ships carrying everything Britain needed to survive another month. Fuel to fly fighters, ammunition to fire guns, food to feed London. The escort group comprised 6 vessels. HMS Scimitar, V-class destroyer, Commander James Pearson commanding. HMS Jonquil, corvette. HMS Snapdragon, corvette. HMS Loosestrife, corvette. Plus 2 other destroyers rotating patrol positions. 6 escorts protecting 37 merchants. Standard Atlantic convoy configuration. Adequate under normal circumstances. Insufficient against determined Wolfpack attack. Naval intelligence briefing identified 12 U-boats operating in SC-130's projected route. Kriegsmarine Wolfpack, Elba Group. Commander: Korvettenkapitän Hans-Joachim Hesse, 38 years old, veteran of Atlantic operations since 1940. Combat record: 22 Allied ships destroyed, tonnage 87,000. Hesse was experienced, aggressive, effective. His Wolfpack had sunk 31 ships in the past 8 weeks. They owned the Mid-Atlantic Gap, the area beyond land-based air cover where U-boats operated freely. Weather forecast for May 1st through 4th. Overcast skies, rough seas, visibility poor. Wind 20 to 30 knots from northwest. Sea state 4 to 5, 8 to 12 foot swells. Temperature 3 to 5 degrees Celsius. Water temperature 2 degrees. Survival time in water 15 to 20 minutes before hypothermia incapacitation. Perfect conditions for U-boat surface attacks. Poor visibility limited radar effectiveness. Rough seas degraded sonar performance. The Germans preferred these conditions. Easier to approach undetected. Easier to strike before escorts reacted. Hendricks studied the convoy manifest in Scimitar's radio room. 37 ships. Estimated 3,000 personnel. Merchant crews averaged 80 men per ship. Some carried more. Tankers needed larger crews. Ammunition. Ships required specialists. He did the mathematics. If standard Wolfpack tactics prevailed, Elbe Group would sink 7 to 12 ships. 7 ships at 80 crew each. 560 casualties. 12 ships. 960 casualties. Somewhere between 500 and 1,000 men would die when Hesse's submarines attacked. Standard acceptable losses according to Admiralty planning. Hendricks opened his unauthorized log. Reviewed 6 weeks of data. 14 ghost signal detections, 14 U-boat attacks, 14 perfect correlations. Time window, 18 to 22 minutes, consistent across all incidents. Bearing correlation, signal direction matched attack vector within 5 to 8 degrees. Duration correlation, signal length predicted Wolfpack size. 30 to 35 seconds indicated 4 to 6 U-boats. 40 to 45 seconds indicated 7 to 10 submarines. Signals longer than 45 seconds, more than 10 U-boats in coordinated attack. The pattern was mathematically perfect. Too perfect to be coincidence. Too perfect to ignore. But protocol demanded he ignore it. Authority insisted the signals were atmospheric interference. Doctrine classified them as equipment malfunction. And 161 men had died on April 12th because Hendricks followed that doctrine. He would not follow it again. Convoy SC-130 entered the danger zone on May 1st. The Mid-Atlantic Gap. No air cover, no nearby support groups. 6 escorts against 12 U-boats across 400 miles of empty ocean. Hendricks maintained continuous radio watch. 0400 to 0800 hours. Nothing unusual. Standard traffic, routine reports. 0800 to 1200 hours. Nothing. 1200 to 1600 hours. Nothing. He started wondering if maybe the Elba group had moved to different hunting grounds. Maybe SC-130 would transit safely. Maybe his pattern was wrong after all. May 2nd, 0200 hours. Hendricks began night watch. The radio room was dark except for receiver dials glowing green. The air smelled like electrical equipment and stale coffee. Outside, the Atlantic rolled under overcast sky. No moon, no stars. Visibility maybe 200 yards. Perfect attack conditions. Hendricks monitored U-boat frequencies. Silence. Monitored Enigma intercept channels. Nothing. Monitored Allied convoy traffic. Routine position reports. The sea was quiet. Too quiet. He'd learned to recognize this stillness. The pause before U-boats struck. When German submarines moved into attack positions, radio traffic ceased. They maintained absolute silence, became ghosts in the water, invisible until torpedoes were already launched. 0237 hours. Hendricks heard it. Low frequency burst, almost lost in background static. He turned up receiver gain, refined the tuning. There. Definite transmission, not atmospheric interference, not equipment malfunction. Deliberate signal with distinct characteristics. Duration, 42 seconds. Bearing, 270 degrees, due west of Convoy. Hendricks checked his chronometer, noted the time precisely. 0237 hours, 16 seconds. His hand moved to the bearing indicator. Confirmed the reading, 270 degrees. He grabbed his unauthorized log, opened to the correlation page. 42 seconds duration indicated 7 to 9 U-boats. Attack window, 18 to 22 minutes from signal detection. 0255 hours to 0259 hours. Attack bearing 270 degrees directly west. Hendricks stared at his microphone. The decision point had arrived. Everything reduced to this moment. He could follow protocol, ignore the signal, maintain radio watch per regulations. Or he could violate direct orders, report unconfirmed intelligence, stake his career on ghost signals every authority dismissed as meaningless. If he stayed silent, standard doctrine applied. Wait for torpedo attacks. React defensively, lose 7 to 12 ships, 500 to 1,000 casualties. Acceptable losses per Admiralty planning. If he reported the signal and was wrong, unnecessary evasive maneuvers would burn fuel, disrupt convoy timing, delay critical supplies. He'd face disciplinary action for false reporting. Possible court-martial for creating panic based on equipment malfunction. If he reported the signal and was right, 37 ships might survive. 3,000 men might live. But he'd still violated protocol, still maintained unauthorized intelligence, still disobeyed direct orders from Signals Command. Hendricks thought about SS Empire Heritage burning. 63 men screaming. Thought about SS Manchester Port exploding. 41 men vaporized. Thought about SS Shervin sinking. 45 men drowning. 161 corpses because he'd followed regulations last time. He would not make that mistake again. Hendricks picked up the microphone, keyed the switch to bridge circuit. His mouth was dry, but his voice stayed steady. Bridge, radio. Possible U-boat ranging signals detected bearing 270. Recommend immediate evasive maneuvers. 5 seconds of silence. Then Lieutenant Commander Davies' voice came through the speaker. Radio bridge, confirm U-boat contact. What's your source? Hendricks had rehearsed this moment for 3 weeks. Since April 12th. Since Empire Heritage burned. He knew exactly what to say. Bridge, radio. Low-frequency transmission consistent with U-boat ranging operations. Duration 42 seconds, bearing 270 degrees. Davies' voice sharpened. Radio, do you have Enigma intercept? Confirm transmission? Negative, bridge. Signal characteristics suggest ranging transmission, consistent with pre-attack protocol. Silence. Hendricks heard voices in the background. Davies conferring with Commander Pearson. 10 seconds passed. 15. 20. The chronometer read 0238 hours. 17 minutes until predicted attack window. 17 minutes to turn 37 ships, reposition escorts, evacuate the killing zone. Davies came back on circuit. Radio bridge. Admiralty protocol classifies low-frequency bursts as atmospheric interference. Are you reporting confirmed U-boat contact or equipment anomaly? This was it. The moment Hendricks committed to the decision. No going back after this. He keyed the microphone. Bridge, radio. I'm reporting probable U-boat activity based on signal analysis. Recommend Convoy execute emergency turn to starboard. New course 045 degrees. Recommend escorts investigate bearing 270 with active sonar. Longer silence this time. 30 seconds. Hendricks imagined the scene on Scimitar's bridge. Davies thinking Hendricks had lost his mind. Pearson deciding whether to trust a petty officer's ghost theory or follow established doctrine. The convoy steamed ahead at 8 knots. 37 ships heading straight toward 12 U-boats forming attack positions 2 miles to the west. 45 seconds. Chronometer 0239 hours, 16 minutes until attack window. Hendricks waited. His hand stayed on the microphone, ready to provide more information, ready to defend his recommendation, ready to accept whatever came next. Commander Pearson's voice came through the speaker. Measured. Calm. Radio bridge. On what basis do you correlate this signal with U-boat ranging operations? Hendricks made his final choice. Told the truth. All of it. Sir, I've tracked similar signals across 4 previous convoys. Each signal preceded U-boat attack by 18 to 22 minutes. Signal bearing matched attack vector within 5 to 8 degrees. Signal duration correlated with wolf pack size. 14 incidents, 14 confirmations, 0 false positives. This signal matches the pattern exactly. Duration 42 seconds indicates 7 to 9 U-boats. Attack window opens in 16 minutes. Bearing 270. 5 seconds of silence. Then Pearson's voice, different tone now. You've been tracking unauthorized intelligence for 6 weeks without reporting through proper channels? Yes, sir. Admiralty classified the signals as atmospheric interference. I disagreed with that assessment, maintained independent analysis. And you're staking your career on this theory? Sir, I'm staking 37 ships on it. 3,000 lives. If I'm wrong, I'll accept court-martial, dishonorable discharge, whatever consequences follow. If I'm right and we do nothing, we'll lose 7 to 12 ships in the next 20 minutes. 500 to 1,000 casualties. I watched 161 men die on April 12th because I followed protocol. I won't do that again. Long pause. Hendricks heard his own heartbeat, heard the hum of radio equipment, heard distant ocean sounds through the bulkhead. The chronometer clicked to 0241 hours, 14 minutes, until attack window. Pearson made his decision. All ships, this is Scimitar. Emergency turn to starboard, new course 045 degrees. Execute immediately. Escorts Jonquil and Snapdragon, break formation. Investigate bearing 270, active sonar authorized. The convoy turned. 37 merchant ships executing simultaneous course change. Helmsmen spinning wheels, engineers adjusting engine settings. Ships heeling as they came about. The formation bent, flexed, reformed on new heading. Northeast instead of east. 045 degrees instead of 090. 4-point course change. Enough to clear the predicted attack zone by 2 to 3 miles. HMS Jonquil and HMS Snapdragon broke from escort positions, turned west toward bearing 270. Their engines accelerated to flank speed. 26 knots. White water boiling behind their sterns. Active sonar began pinging, sound pulses propagating through the Atlantic, searching for submarine contacts. Hendricks monitored radio traffic. Convoy Commodore questioning the emergency turn. Merchant captains confused, demanding explanation. No U-boat warning had been issued. No confirmed contacts. Why the sudden maneuver? Davies provided cover story. Precautionary action based on possible sonar contact. Routine defensive measure. Resume standard formation after investigation complete. The merchantmen accepted this. Maintained new heading. The formation held together. 37 ships now steaming northeast, away from bearing 270, away from 12 U-boats waiting in attack positions. Chronometer, 0243 hours. 12 minutes until attack window. Hendricks watched the second-hand sweep around the dial. Each second felt like an hour. If his pattern was wrong, nothing would happen. The convoy would waste fuel on unnecessary maneuver. He'd face disciplinary action. If his pattern was right, Jonquil and Snapdragon would detect U-boats any moment now. Confirmation would come through active sonar. Multiple contacts? 7 to 9 submarines. Exactly as his signal analysis predicted. 0245 hours, 10 minutes until attack window. Still no contact reports. Hendricks started doubting. Maybe the signal was atmospheric interference after all. Maybe he'd just destroyed his career over static. Maybe Davies was right about confirmation bias and pattern recognition in random data. 0247 hours. HMS Jonquil's voice broke through on command circuit. Scimitar Jonquil. Multiple sonar contacts bearing 268 degrees. Range 3,000 yards. Count 7 to 9 submerged contacts. Designate probable U-boat Wolfpack. Request permission to engage. Hendricks felt something release in his chest. Not relief, not vindication. Just cold confirmation. The pattern held. 7 to 9 contacts, exactly matching his 42-second signal duration prediction. Bearing 268 degrees, within 2 degrees of his signal bearing. Range 3,000 yards, close enough to attack the convoy's original position. Pearson's voice came over command circuit. Jonquil confirmed. All escorts, U-boat Wolfpack detected bearing 268. Convoy maintain current heading. Jonquil and Snapdragon engage contacts with depth charges. Loose strife, establish screen on convoy's western flank. Davies' voice came through internal circuit to the radio room. Radio bridge. Stand by for further signals. Well done. 2 words. Well done. From the officer who dismissed his theory as confirmation bias 3 weeks ago. 0252 hours. 3 minutes until original attack window. Convoy SC-130 was now 4 miles northeast of its previous position. 4 miles from where U-boats expected to find 37 targets. Hendricks heard depth charge explosions through the hull. Dull crumps. Underwater detonations. Jonquil and Snapdragon hammering contacts with pattern attacks. 300 pounds of Torpex explosive per charge. Detonating at preset depths. Crushing pressure waves designed to rupture submarine hulls. 0255 hours. Original attack window opened. The moment when U-boats would have fired torpedoes at convoy's expected position. But the convoy wasn't there. It was 4 miles away. Safe. The U-boats had lost their targets, lost their firing solutions. Their carefully coordinated attack plan disrupted by 18 minutes of warning. 0259 hours. Attack window closed. No torpedoes fired. No ships hit. No explosions. No casualties. Just silence on the radio circuits. Blessed, perfect silence. 0312 hours. HMS Jonquil reported forcing 2 U-boats to dive deep. Lost sonar contact as submarines descended below 300 feet. Probable damage to at least one contact. Oil slick observed on surface. 0327 hours. Convoy SC-130 resumed base course after clearing danger area. Reformed on original heading. All 37 ships accounted for. All crews alive. 0 casualties. First time in 6 weeks, a convoy transited Wolfpack operational area without losses. Dawn broke at 0543 hours. Gray light spread across the Atlantic. Hendricks could see the convoy through the radio room porthole. 37 merchant ships, steaming in formation. SS Fort Rouillet still carried her 12,000 tons of aviation gasoline. SS Dunsley still carried 8,000 tons of ammunition. SS Harperley still carried 10,000 tons of food. 3,000 sailors still breathed, still lived. Because one petty officer violated protocol and reported signals everyone called static. At 0615 hours, Commander Pearson's voice came over internal circuit. Petty Officer Hendricks, report to the bridge. Hendricks secured his radio equipment, climbed the ladder from the radio room, stepped onto Scimitar's bridge. Morning light poured through the windows. Pearson stood near the helm, Davies beside him. Both officers turned as Hendricks entered. He came to attention. Pearson studied him for 10 seconds without speaking. Then, Petty Officer Hendricks, you violated protocol. You maintained unauthorized intelligence. You reported unconfirmed contacts based on signals officially classified as equipment malfunction. You caused emergency maneuvers that expended fuel and disrupted convoy operations. Hendricks said nothing. Waited. You also saved 37 ships and 3,000 lives. Pearson's expression didn't change. I don't know whether to court-martial you or recommend you for commendation. Explain your analysis, everything, from the beginning. May 3rd, 1943, 0800 hours, HMS Scimitar's wardroom. Commander Pearson sat across the table from Hendricks. Lieutenant Commander Davies to Pearson's left. On the table between them, Hendricks' unauthorized log, 14 pages of handwritten entries, dates, times, signal characteristics, attack correlations, 6 weeks of data that wasn't supposed to exist. Pearson opened the notebook to the first page. February 18th. Read the entry aloud. Signal detected 0243 hours. Duration 40 seconds. Bearing unknown. U-boat attack 0304 hours. Interval 21 minutes. Convoy HX-226. 5 ships lost. He turned to the next entry. February 27th. Signal 0156 hours. Duration 38 seconds. Attack 0218 hours. Interval 22 minutes. Convoy on 166. 4 ships lost. Pearson continued through the entire log. March 8th, 18-minute interval. March 14th, 18 minutes. March 19th, 19 minutes. April 3rd, 20 minutes. April 8th, 22 minutes. April 12th, 23 minutes. 14 entries, 14 perfect correlations. Not a single false positive, not a single missed prediction. Pearson closed the notebook, looked at Hendricks. Why didn't you report this through proper channels? Hendricks kept his voice steady. Sir, I mentioned the correlation to Lieutenant Commander Davies after the second incident. February 28th. He told me the signals were atmospheric interference, standard Admiralty protocol. I didn't think intelligence officers would accept data based on signals officially classified as equipment malfunction. Davies confirmed. He did report it. I dismissed the theory, told him to focus on confirmed contacts. I was wrong. Pearson tapped the notebook. This is proper intelligence analysis, signal detection, pattern recognition, statistical correlation. Where did you learn these techniques? Self-taught, sir. I've monitored radio frequencies for 3 years. You develop a sense for patterns, for what's normal and what isn't. And these signals aren't normal? No, sir. Atmospheric interference is random. These signals have consistent characteristics. Duration between 30 and 45 seconds, always between 0200 and 0400 hours, always followed by U-boat attack within 18 to 22 minutes. That's not atmospheric phenomena. That's deliberate transmission. Pearson leaned forward. Explain the mechanism. Why would U-boats break radio silence before attacking? Hendricks had thought about this question for 6 weeks. Had developed a theory based on observation and logic. Ranging transmissions, sir. U-boats need to coordinate wolf pack attacks, multiple submarines striking from different vectors simultaneously. But they maintain radio silence during final approach to avoid detection. The ranging signal solves this problem. One submarine transmits brief low-frequency burst. Other submarines in the pack receive it, measure time delay, calculate range and bearing through triangulation. This allows coordinated attack positioning without direct radio communication between boats. Davies interrupted. But we detect coordinated transmissions, multiple submarines talking to each other. They don't talk to each other, sir. One boat transmits. The others listen. Single brief signal, 30 to 45 seconds. Just long enough for triangulation calculation. Short enough that we classify it as static. By the time we might investigate, the signal's gone. And our doctrine says low-frequency bursts are atmospheric interference anyway. Perfect stealth communication hidden in plain sight. Pearson studied Hendricks for 10 seconds. If you're correct, this changes everything. But one successful prediction doesn't prove the theory. Could be coincidence? 14 successful predictions, sir. 0 failures. Across 4 convoys over 6 weeks. That's a small sample size. Admiralty needs more data. Multiple independent confirmations across different operational areas, different escort groups, different U-boat packs. Davies added. And if the pattern holds consistently, sir? If it holds, Lieutenant Commander, then this petty officer just discovered the only early warning system we have against wolf pack attacks. And we need to implement it across every escort group in the Atlantic before another convoy dies. Pearson made his decision. Hendricks, you'll continue monitoring for these signals. Report every detection immediately to the bridge. Don't wait for confirmation. Don't second-guess yourself. The moment you hear signal characteristics matching your pattern, report it. We'll test your theory under combat conditions. If your correlation holds across multiple convoys, I'll forward your findings to Western Approaches Command. Understood? Yes, sir. And Hendricks, for what it's worth, you made the right call yesterday. Protocol exists for good reasons. But sometimes protocol gets men killed. You recognize that distinction. Not many people have the courage to violate orders when lives depend on it. May 9th, 1943. Convoy ONS-7 departed Liverpool. 42 merchant ships westbound to Halifax. Mixed cargo, machinery, vehicles, steel, manufactured goods. Return convoy configuration, lighter tonnage then. Eastbound runs. HMS Scimitar assigned escort duty. Commander Pearson briefed the escort group on Hendricks' ghost signal theory. Reactions varied. HMS Loosestrife's captain, Lieutenant Commander James Brewer, dismissed it. Superstition. One lucky guess doesn't prove anything. We're chasing static. HMS Sunflower's captain, Lieutenant Harold Stonehouse, showed interest. If there's even a chance it works, we'd be fools not to test it. Better to turn on false alarm than miss real warning. Naval intelligence reported 9 U-boats in ONS-7's projected route. Wolfpack Rhine Group. Smaller than Elbepack, but still dangerous. 9 submarines could destroy 15 to 20 ships if they achieved coordinated attack. Standard acceptable losses. May 11th. Convoy entered Mid-Atlantic Gap. No air cover. Weather deteriorating. Wind 30 knots, sea state 5, 12-foot swells. Visibility down to 300 yards. U-boat weather. Hendricks maintained continuous watch. 0400 to 0800 hours. Nothing. 0800 to 1200 hours. Nothing. 1600 to 2000 hours. Nothing. He started wondering if ONS 7 would transit safely. Maybe Rhinepack had moved to different hunting grounds. May 12th. 0217 hours. Hendricks heard it. Low frequency burst, 38 seconds duration, bearing 180 degrees due south. He grabbed the microphone immediately. No hesitation this time. Bridge, radio. Ghost signal detected bearing 180. Duration 38 seconds. Estimate 4 to 6 U-boats. Attack window 0235 to 0239 hours. Pearson responded instantly. Confirmed. All ships, emergency turn starboard. New course 090 degrees. Escort Sunflower and Loosestrife. Investigate bearing 180. Active sonar. The convoy turned. 42 ships executing course change. Escorts broke formation heading south. 0223 hours. HMS Sunflower reported multiple contacts. 5 confirmed U-boat contacts bearing 175, range 4,000 yards, engaging with depth charges. 0236 hours. Original attack window opened. Convoy now 3 miles east of previous position. No torpedoes fired. 0240 hours. Window closed. 0 casualties. HMS Loosestrife's captain sent message to Scimitar. Hendricks' theory confirmed. Contact count matches signal duration prediction exactly. 5 U-boats, 38-second signal. Request permission to implement this detection method on all future patrols. Pearson forwarded the request to Western Approaches Command. Added his own assessment. Petty Officer Hendricks' signal analysis provides 18 to 22 minutes advance warning of Wolfpack attacks. 2 convoys tested. 2 successful predictions. 0 false positives. Recommend immediate fleet-wide implementation. Second successful prediction. 2 convoys saved. 0 losses. The pattern held. May 15th, 1943. Hendricks' findings reached Admiral Max Horton, Commander-in-Chief, Western Approaches. Horton commanded all Atlantic convoy operations, all escort groups, all anti-submarine warfare. He read Hendricks' data, read Pearson's assessments, read contact reports from SC-130 and ONS 7. 16 signal detections across 6 weeks, 16 U-boat attacks, 16 perfect correlations. Horton summoned his signals intelligence staff, presented Hendricks' theory. The response divided along predictable lines. Senior officers called it impossible. U-boats wouldn't break radio silence for ranging transmissions. Too risky. Too detectable. The signals must be atmospheric interference that coincidentally preceded attacks. Junior analysts found the correlation mathematically compelling. 16 incidents with 0 false positives represented statistical significance impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Horton made his decision. Test it. Every escort group in the Atlantic monitors for these signals. Report every detection through standard intelligence channels. Track every correlation. I want 1 month of data, 30 days. If Hendricks' pattern holds across multiple operational areas, multiple U-boat groups, multiple environmental conditions, we implement it as standard doctrine. May 16th through June 15th, 1943. 30-day testing period. 83 escort groups monitored for ghost signals across North Atlantic convoy routes. Radio operators received briefing on signal characteristics. Duration 30 to 45 seconds. Low frequency. Between 0200 and 0400 hours. Bearing noted when possible. Every detection reported immediately to Western Approaches Command for correlation tracking. Results exceeded every projection. 42 signals detected across 29 convoys during the testing period. 42 U-boat attacks followed within 18 to 22 minutes. Correlation, 100%. Time window. Consistent across all incidents. Bearing accuracy, signal direction predicted attack vector within 5 to 8 degrees in 37 of 42 cases. Duration correlation, confirmed. 30 to 35 seconds indicated 4 to 6 U-boats. 40 to 45 seconds indicated 7 to 10 U-boats. 0 false positives during entire testing period. Not a single ghost signal failed to precede U-boat attack. Not a single attack occurred without preceding signal. The pattern was perfect. Statistical analysis showed probability of coincidence at less than 0.001%. The signals were deliberate U-boat transmissions. Hendricks' ranging theory was correct. June 18, 1943, Admiral Horton issued Admiralty Tactical Memorandum 47. Distribution, all Atlantic escort groups, all convoy commanders, all signals personnel. The memorandum established new protocol for anti-submarine warfare. All escort groups shall monitor radio frequencies for low-frequency signal bursts between 0200 and 0400 hours. Signals of 30 to 45 seconds duration shall be treated as confirmed U-boat ranging transmissions indicating imminent Wolfpack attack. Upon detection, convoy commanders shall execute immediate evasive maneuvers. New course shall deviate minimum 45 degrees from current heading. Escorts shall investigate signal bearing with active sonar. Attack window estimated at 18 to 22 minutes from signal detection. The ghost signals were now official doctrine. Hendricks' unauthorized theory became standard Royal Navy operating procedure. Every radio operator in the Atlantic Fleet received training on signal recognition. Every escort commander learned the 18 to 22-minute window. Every convoy gained advance warning before U-boat attacks. The tactical balance shifted. For 3 years, U-boats controlled timing and positioning of attacks. Now convoys had warning. 18 minutes to turn, 18 minutes to reposition, 18 minutes to escape the killing zone. The Germans lost their element of surprise. June convoy statistics reflected the change. Losses dropped 73% compared to May. Ships destroyed, 42 instead of 157. Lives lost, 1,400 instead of 5,200. The mathematics of Atlantic warfare reversed. Britain would not starve. The supply line held. German Naval Command noticed immediately. U-boat effectiveness collapsed across all operational areas. Korvettenkapitän Hesse filed report to Befehlshaber der U-Boot, Admiral Dönitz. Allied convoys executing evasive maneuvers before attacks commence. They anticipate our positions with impossible accuracy. Suspect compromise of operational security or advanced detection capability unknown to us. BDU investigated. Enigma codes examined. No evidence of compromise. Agent networks checked. No security leaks. U-boat operational procedures reviewed. No obvious vulnerabilities. Yet convoys kept evading, kept turning 18 to 20 minutes before torpedoes could launch. The Germans couldn't understand how. August 4th, 1943, BDU issued new operational directive to all U-boat groups. Cease pre-attack ranging transmissions effective immediately. All Wolfpacks maintain absolute radio silence during approach and attack phases. Coordinate positioning through visual signals only. The ranging transmissions stopped. Hendricks lost his early warning system, but the damage was permanent. Without ranging signals, U-boats couldn't coordinate Wolfpack attacks precisely. Attack efficiency declined even further. September 1943. Donitz withdrew U-boats from North Atlantic. The Battle of the Atlantic effectively won, not through any single factor, through accumulation of Allied advantages, better radar, more escorts, long-range aircraft closing the mid-Atlantic gap, and 18 minutes of warning from a petty officer who refused to call deliberate enemy transmissions atmospheric interference. May through August 1943. 4 months of convoy operations using Hendricks' ghost signal detection method. 137 convoys transited the North Atlantic during this period. Ghost signals detected 89 times. U-boat attacks prevented through early warning 89. Ships saved through evasive maneuvers. Estimated 632 merchant vessels. Lives saved. Estimated 19,000 sailors. The mathematics told the story. January through April 1943, before Hendricks' discovery, 141 convoys crossed the Atlantic. Ships lost, 347. Casualties, approximately 12,000 sailors dead. May through August, after implementation, 137 convoys. Ships lost, 63. Casualties, 2,100. Reduction in losses, 82%. British import tonnage stabilized. Food supplies maintained adequate reserves. Fuel stocks rebuilt. Medical equipment reached hospitals. Ammunition filled depots. The starvation threat to Britain eliminated, not through single decisive battle, through accumulated tactical advantage. 18 minutes of advance warning multiplied across 137 convoys. Admiralty analysis conducted in September 1943 credited multiple factors for Atlantic victory. Improved centimetric radar coverage, estimated 20% impact on loss reduction. Increased escort numbers, estimated 25% impact. Long-range B-24 Liberator aircraft closing mid-Atlantic gap, estimated 30% impact. Early warning from signal detection. Estimated 25% impact on preventing attacks. Hendricks' discovery accounted for 1/4 of the victory. 632 ships that reached port instead of sinking. 19,000 men who lived instead of drowning. But Admiralty never published this analysis, never mentioned ghost signals in official histories, never explained publicly how convoys gained advance warning of U-boat positions. Security classification, top secret. The Germans couldn't know why their tactics failed. If they understood signal detection methodology, they'd adapt faster, develop countermeasures, change communication protocols. Operational security demanded absolute silence. Hendricks' contribution remained buried in classified files. His name appeared in no public reports. His innovation earned no newspaper coverage. Just notes in convoy logs. Evasive maneuvers executed based on radio intelligence. What that meant? Only classified cleared officers knew. June 1943. Commander Pearson recommended Hendricks for Distinguished Service Medal. Citation read, "For exceptional initiative and analytical capability in developing signal detection techniques that significantly enhanced convoy defense operations and saved numerous Allied lives." Recommendation forwarded through chain of command. Western approaches command to Admiralty to Naval Staff. July 1943. Recommendation denied. Official reason? Recognition would compromise operational security. Petty Officer Hendricks' contribution must remain classified to protect ongoing intelligence operations. Pearson informed Hendricks personally. They met in Scimitar's wardroom. Just the two of them. Pearson held the rejection letter. "You saved 19,000 lives. Admiralty recognizes that. But they can't tell anyone. If the Germans learn we're detecting their ranging signals, they'll change communication protocols immediately. Your method only works as long as it remains secret." Hendricks sat across the table. His expression didn't change. "I didn't do it for medals, sir. I did it so men would stop burning in fuel oil. It's not fair. You should be celebrated, promoted, recognized publicly. Instead, you're a footnote in classified documents that won't be released for 50 years. Every convoy that makes Liverpool, every merchant sailor who goes home to his family, that's my recognition, sir. I don't need my name in newspapers. But Pearson felt the injustice deeply. Other wartime innovations earned immediate public acclaim. The Hedgehog anti-submarine mortar. Inventor Commander Charles Goodeve received Order of the British Empire. Promotion to captain. Newspaper profiles. Improved depth charge pistols. Development team honored at Admiralty ceremony. Centimetric radar. Scientists celebrated in public broadcasts. But signal detection remained locked behind classification barriers. The most effective anti-submarine technique of 1943. The method that prevented 89 Wolfpack attacks. And nobody outside classified channels could know it existed. September 1943. Hendricks received quiet promotion. Petty Officer First Class. Small pay increase. No ceremony, no announcement, no public recognition, just administrative paperwork noting advancement based on exemplary performance. That was all the Royal Navy could give him without compromising security. December 1943, Western Approaches Command issued internal commendation. Document stated, Petty Officer First Class Hendricks' analytical work represented the highest standards of signals intelligence. His detection methods saved numerous Allied vessels and contributed significantly to victory in the Atlantic campaign. His initiative and courage in reporting unconfirmed intelligence despite protocol violations exemplify the finest traditions of Royal Navy service. Document classification, top secret. Filed in restricted archives. Distribution, approximately 20 officers with appropriate clearance. Hendricks never received copy, never saw the commendation, never knew it existed. He continued his work, trained other radio operators in ghost signal recognition, developed refined analysis techniques, improved bearing accuracy through cross-reference methods, enhanced duration correlation through statistical modeling, reduced timing window uncertainty from 4 minutes to 2 minutes, became the authority everyone consulted within classified community. But his name never appeared publicly. His discovery never made headlines. The war moved forward. Public celebrated victories they could see. Naval battles at North Cape. Air raids over Germany. Ground campaigns in Italy. Nobody celebrated the absence of losses. Nobody wrote stories about convoys that didn't sink. 19,000 sailors lived. Most never knew a petty officer's ghost theory saved their lives. May 1945. War in Europe ended. Hendricks had spent 5 years in radio operations. Survived entire Atlantic campaign. Trained 47 radio operators in signal detection methods. Methods credited in classified assessments with preventing 238 U-boat attacks across all theaters. Ships saved. Estimated 912 vessels. Lives saved. Estimated 27,000 sailors. He received final posting. Training Command, Portsmouth. Teaching signals intelligence to new recruits. War ended before they saw combat. December 1945. Hendricks demobilized. Returned to Portsmouth. Returned to civilian life. Age 27. His service record noted. Exemplary performance in signals intelligence duties. Recommended for promotion to Chief Petty Officer prior to demobilization. Declined promotion to accept civilian discharge. No mention of ghost signals. No mention of convoy defense innovation. No mention of 19,000 lives. Security classification remained in force. Would remain classified minimum 50 years per standard protocol. Hendricks found work as radio technician. civilian shipping company operating merchant vessels. He maintained radio equipment, monitored maritime frequencies, routine peacetime communications, no U-boats, no wolf packs, no attacks. Sometimes he heard brief static bursts on low frequencies, brief pulses that meant nothing now, just atmospheric interference, equipment noise. He'd turn the tuning dial, filter out the static, continue monitoring normal traffic. He married in 1947. Margaret Collins, Portsmouth girl, teacher. They had 2 children, Anne born 1948, Robert born 1951. Hendricks worked steady employment for 42 years. Same shipping company, same radio maintenance duties. Reliable, competent, unremarkable. He never talked about the war. Margaret knew he'd served on destroyers, knew he'd been radio operator, knew he'd spent 3 years in North Atlantic. That was all. The children knew even less. Dad was in the Navy during the war, worked on ships. That's what they told school friends. Nobody knew about ghost signals. Nobody knew about unauthorized logs. Nobody knew about 18-minute warnings. Nobody knew he'd violated protocol and saved 27,000 lives. 1968. Hendricks read newspaper article over breakfast. Feature story marking 25th anniversary of Battle of the Atlantic victory. Article listed contributing factors: improved radar technology, increased escort numbers, long-range aircraft, ultra-code-breaking intelligence, tactical innovations, and depth charge deployment. No mention of signal detection. No mention of early warning systems. No mention of ranging transmission analysis. He put down the newspaper, drank his coffee. Didn't feel angry, didn't feel cheated, just felt tired. 25 years since he'd sat in Scimitar's radio room, detecting signals everyone called static. Quarter century since he'd violated orders to save SC-130. The convoys got through. The sailors lived. That had to be enough. 1993. British government declassified World War II intelligence documents. 50-year rule expired. Thousands of files released to national archives. Among them, Admiralty Tactical Memorandum 47, the Ghost Signal Directive. Maritime historians discovered it, started researching the story behind the protocol. Dr. Margaret Ashford, naval historian specializing in Battle of Atlantic, traced the directive's origins, found references to Hendricks' original reports, found Pearson's medal recommendations, found classified commendations, found the data: 89 signals, 89 predictions, 100% correlation. She published paper. The Ghost Signal Method, an overlooked factor in Atlantic convoy defense. Journal of Military History, Spring 1994. Paper calculated Hendricks' contribution, 27,000 lives saved. Compared his impact to other innovations. Concluded, Petty Officer Hendricks' discovery represented one of the most significant tactical advances of the Atlantic campaign. Yet his contribution remains virtually unknown outside classified historical records. Ashford tried contacting Hendricks. Veterans registries, military archives, public records. Discovered he died in 1987, age 68. Heart failure. Obituary in Portsmouth News. Thomas Hendricks, 78, retired radio technician. Served in Royal Navy during World War II. Survived by wife Margaret, children Anne and Robert, 5 grandchildren. Private funeral service. No mention of convoys. No mention of U-boats. No mention of 27,000 lives. Ashford contacted Margaret Hendricks, age 79, still living in Portsmouth. Explained what Thomas had accomplished. Showed her declassified documents. Margaret read them slowly. Tears formed. 50 years married. He never told me. Never said one word about any of this. She produced small cardboard box from the bedroom closet. Inside, The unauthorized log. 14 pages, handwritten, dated February through May 1943. Signal detections, attack correlations, bearing analysis. The original document that changed naval warfare. Margaret donated it to Imperial War Museum. Requested one condition: display it with Thomas's photograph. Let people see the man. Let them remember his name. December 1994. Imperial War Museum opened exhibit, Unsung Heroes of the Atlantic. Central display, Hendricks log, his photograph in Royal Navy uniform, age 24, explanation of ghost signal method. Margaret attended opening, age 80. She stood before Thomas's photograph, read exhibit text explaining his discovery, read casualty statistics, 27,000 lives saved. She turned to museum director, said quietly, "Thomas would have hated this attention. He just wanted the boys to come home." The ghost signal method proved a principle that appears throughout military history. Effective innovation often comes from unexpected sources, not from admirals or academics, from ordinary people who notice details everyone else ignores. Hendricks wasn't trained in advanced signals intelligence, wasn't educated in tactical analysis. He just listened carefully, noticed a pattern, had courage to act on what he noticed even when regulations said he was wrong, even when authority dismissed his theory, even when protocol demanded silence. He chose lives over rules, chose action over compliance, chose possible court-martial over certain casualties. That choice saved 27,000 people. That choice changed the Battle of the Atlantic. That choice proved that sometimes the most important military innovations come from petty officers who refuse to ignore static. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps preserve these forgotten histories. Comment below. Where are you watching from? Thank you for remembering Thomas Hendricks. Thank you for keeping these stories alive.